Good riddance, Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci is not looking for our forgiveness. As you know, he's stepping down from his post. And that's good because millions of us will never provide it. The truth is that Dr. Fauci, who had a greater hand than anyone in causing Americans to lose their jobs, years of learning, and even their lives, thanks to the social and economic upheaval he helped foist upon us during the pandemic, ought to be ashamed to show his face in polite society. Instead, the man is self-congratulatory.
It's called the Fauci effect. People go to medical school now. People are interested in science, not because of me, because most people don't know me, who I am. My friends know me, my wife knows me, but people don't know me. It's what I symbolize. People, the craving for consistency, for integrity, for truth, and for people caring about people.
Integrity and truth, that's a joke, as even he has inadvertently admitted. He lied about his views on masks, for example. First saying we didn't need them, which happened to be true, then saying we did, and that he only lied earlier to preserve them for medical workers. Meanwhile, his pals over at the CDC did a study of 90,000 school children in Georgia and found that masks do nothing. A study Fauci and the CDC then promptly ignored, later dismissing all criticism of Fauci's edicts as anti-science.
Anybody who's looking at this carefully realizes that there's a distinct anti-science flavor to this. So if they get up and criticize science, nobody's going to know what they're talking about. But if they get up and really aim their bullets at Tony Fauci, well, people could recognize there's a person there, so it's easy to criticize. But they're really criticizing science, because I represent science.
In May of 2020, he admitted that the real reason he wants us all masked was, quote, I want to make them a symbol for people. Wear my symbol, serfs. Wear two of them. In fact, he later thought double masking was, quote, common sense. F you and F your kids. I am the science. Now he says these weren't lies. It wasn't a flip-flop. It was just the evolution of facts. Listen.
With COVID, I mean, the things that we thought we knew in the beginning turned out as the months went by to not be the case, which really forced us to adapt and to change some of our policies and recommendations. That was interpreted by many as flip-flopping or not really knowing what's going on, when it really was the evolution of the science.
What science evolved on the wearing of masks? Something you admit you knew you were lying about at the time you first publicly commented. What science evolved on the vaccination level needed to allegedly get us to herd immunity? First, Dr. Fauci said we needed to get up to around 70%. Then he upped it later to 80, 85. Why? Because the science evolved? That's not what he said. He said he changed the number when he thought the public would tolerate a greater percentage. Another lie that he admitted to. This wasn't the evolution of anything besides Anthony Fauci's con. He mocked the idea of natural immunity, eliminating the need for his mandatory beloved vaccines, despite admitting years earlier that natural immunity is, in fact, the gold standard.
She's had the flu for 14 days. Should she get a flu shot?
Well, no. If she got the flu for 14 days, she's as protected as anybody can be, because the best vaccination is to get infected yourself.
And
so if she really has the flu, she definitely doesn't need a flu vaccine. If she really has the flu,
she should not get it again.
No, she doesn't need it, because it's the most potent vaccination is getting infected yourself.
You don't say. His unexplained reversal cost millions their livelihoods. As of October of 2021, 5% of unvaccinated adults said they had lost a job due to a vaccine mandate, according to the Kaiser Foundation. Folks like truckers who work alone and are socially distanced naturally for a living. Healthcare workers who were already infected and stood ready to help those who were hurting from COVID, booted out of short-staffed hospitals. Nearly 2,000 public employees in New York City alone, where another 6,000 are still waiting for as yet ungranted exemptions. Great, good time to cut back on police in a city rampant with crime. The military, roughly 40,000 unvaccinated National Guardsmen and 22,000 reserve soldiers cut off from their military benefits. Another 3,400 troops involuntarily separated from service for refusing to get the vaccine. Nearly 2,000 of those Marines. Okay, sure. What do we need Marines for anyway? Not all of those folks had natural immunity. Not every single one of them had COVID. But the point is, if they did, 0 people connected to Anthony Fauci or his policies cared or would even consider it, thanks to Dr. Integrity. But Fauci's biggest lie was told under oath when he testified before Congress that his group at the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan, China, the kind that experiments on bat coronaviruses to try to make them more lethal or more transmissible in humans. Senator Rand Paul confronted Fauci on this falsehood.
Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress.
But all the evidence is pointing that it came from the lab, and there will be responsibility for those who funded the lab, including yourself.
I totally
This committee will allow the witness to respond.
I totally resent the lie that you are now propagating.
No one's saying those viruses caused it.
It
no
is
one is alleging that
molecularly.
those viruses caused the pandemic. What we're alleging is that gain-of-function research was going on in that lab, and NIH funded it.
That is
you can't
not
get away from it. It meets your definition, and you are obfuscating the truth.
And you are implying that what we did was responsible for the deaths of individual. I totally resent that. And if anybody is lying here, Senator, it is you.
Nice moment for the cameras. Unfortunately for Fauci, he was the one who was lying, and he was caught in this lie, thanks to the emergence of previously unseen documents unearthed by Republicans in Congress. The NIH was later forced to admit in writing in a letter to Congress that it had indeed funded gain-of-function research at the Wuhan lab, despite those nonsense denials by Fauci, claiming that the group to which Dr. Fauci gave the money, EcoHealth Alliance, had not been straight with the NIH about it. Oh, gambling? What? Okay, Mr. Truthful. By the way, there was never any Fauci apology for this misleading in front of members of Congress while under oath. No personal coming clean whatsoever. The NIH must have been very angry that this group, EcoHealth Alliance, partnering with a Wuhan lab, embarrassed Dr. Fauci so badly and possibly even had a role in causing the pandemic. Unclear, but possible. So angry, in fact, that it just approved more public grants, more of your money for EcoHealth, the NIH did, with 0 additional oversight or accountability. I am integrity. You feel good about it, don't you? I'm sure they'll spend it well. Mr. Integrity took the opinions of 11 or so respected virologists who came to him early on in this pandemic and said, yo, this thing looks like it came from a lab, and appears to have promptly pressured them into doing a 180. And we now know why the NIH had been funding this kind of lab research in Wuhan, China. These 11 scientists, most of whom make their living on NIH grants controlled by Fauci, went from saying, no way is this from an animal, to 48 hours later saying, it's racist to suggest it came from anything other than an animal. Right after their chat with Dr. Science, who later granted 2 of them nearly $10 million in grants. Coincidence, I'm sure. Fauci was confronted on this by Rand Paul as well. Watch.
Did you communicate with the 5 scientists who wrote the opinion piece in Nature where they were describing, there's no way this could have come from the lab?
That was not me. What I did.
Did you talk with any of those scientists privately?
You keep distorting the truth. It is stunning how you do
Did you talk to any of the scientists privately
Yes.
who wrote the opinion? You did.
Well,
what were they telling you privately?
Well, let me explain. You're going back to that original discussion when I brought together a group of people to look at every possibility with an open mind. So not only are you distorting it, you are completely turning it around, as
Were most
you
of the
usually
scientists
do.
that came to you privately, did they come to you privately and say, no way this came from the lab? Or was their initial impression, Dr. Gary and others that were involved, was their initial impression actually that it looked very suspicious for a virus that came from a lab?
Senator, we are here at a committee to look at a virus now that has killed almost 900,000 people. And the purpose of the committee was to try and get things out, how we can help to get the American public. And you keep coming back to personal attacks on me that have absolutely no relevance to reality.
How is it a personal attack to ask whether you did that with the virologists? Just go to playing the victim. That's his go-to. Such a chatty Cathy when trying to arm twist opinions on the origins of COVID. But Fauci's silence on other issues has been absolutely deafening. Like when millions broke his stay-at-home rules to jam the streets elbow to elbow for the BLM protests. Nary a word. He also said nothing when swarms of mourners broke quarantine to pay their respects to the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg or to celebrate Joe Biden's win. Those folks, you see, were doing good. Those who questioned Dr. Science and his approach to the pandemic, evil. Like the doctors who put together the Great Barrington Declaration. Doctors from Stanford, Harvard, Oxford. They challenged Fauci's lockdown push. They said an approach based on focused protection, in which we protect the most vulnerable, the elderly, the immunocompromised, makes sense, but we let others live their lives. That's what we need. And what did Fauci do? He conspired with his boss at the NIH to smear these good doctors. Fauci and the NIH's Dr. Collins actually agreed to ensure a, quote, devastating takedown of these doctors who, unlike Fauci, actually specialize in epidemiology and vaccines. Sure enough, the compliant media did hit pieces on these doctors, making any approach other than lockdowns verboten to even discuss. The doctors have since filed a lawsuit over these smears. Senator Paul confronted Fauci about this as well.
A planner who believes he is the science leads to an arrogance that justifies, in his mind, using government resources to smear and to destroy the reputations of other scientists who disagree with him. In an email exchange with Dr. Collins, you conspire, and I quote here directly from the email, to create a quick and devastating published takedown of three prominent epidemiologists from Harvard, Oxford, and Stanford. Apparently, there's a lot of fringe epidemiologists at Harvard, Oxford, and Stanford. Do you really think it's appropriate to use your $420,000 salary to attack scientists that disagree with you?
In usual fashion, Senator, you are distorting everything about me.
Did you ever object to Dr. Collins' characterization of them as fringe? Did you write back to Dr. Collins and say, no, they're not fringe, they're esteemed scientists, and it would be beneath me
I did not
to do that? You responded to him that you would do it, and you immediately got an article in Wired, and you sent it back to him and said, hey, look, I've got him. I nailed him in Wired of all scientific publications.
That's not what went on. There you go again. You just do the same thing every hearing.
That was your response. And this wasn't the only time. So your desire to take down people...
You're absolutely incorrect. As usual, Senator, you are incorrect. Almost everything you said.
No.
Fauci worked hand in hand with the White House to encourage censorship on the tech platforms, not just of the Great Barrington doctors, but of folks like the Disinformation Dozen, who raised questions about his precious vaccines, for example. That was just too toxic for tech. Censorship, strong-arming, self-aggrandizing, bullying, that is who Dr. Fauci is. And as I said at the beginning, he's not the least bit sorry. As John Tierney, a City Journal contributing editor, recently put it, lockdowns and mask mandates were the most radical experiment in the history of public health. But Anthony Fauci recently said there should have been much, much more stringent restrictions early in the pandemic. Fauci is indifferent to the harm that he helped cause. Listen to what he said yesterday, speaking to Neil Cavuto.
In retrospect, Doctor, do you regret that it went too far? Whatever your original intentions were, and it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback here, but that it went too far, that particularly for kids who couldn't go to school except remotely, that it's forever damaged them.
Well, I don't think it's forever irreparably damaged anyone.
Oh my God, really? Really? Emergency room visits fell precipitously. People weren't going, even though they were sick, because of him and his quarantine. Fatal heart attacks rose. Fewer people were screened for cancer. They were too afraid to go out. or the cancer screening was closed. Deaths of despair went through the roof by the tens of thousands. The levels of anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts skyrocketed, not to mention what happened to our children, about whom he clearly does not give a damn. The learning loss, especially among poor kids, does he care about them? The suicidality of isolated teenagers, many of whom unfortunately succeeded in taking their own lives. The lack of language development and social skills in kids forced to mask for the better part of 2 years, all because they wore his symbol. Fatal car accidents went up thanks to substance abuse spikes. Tierney goes on in his reporting, quote, nearly 40% of workers in low-income households lost their jobs during the spring, triple the rate in high-income households like Fauci's. Thanks to you, by the way, you're paying his salary. Minority-owned small businesses suffered more too. During the spring, when it was estimated that 22% of all small businesses closed, 32% of Hispanic owners, 41% of Black owners shut down. Does Fauci care? The United States, Tierney goes on, will experience more than 1 million excess deaths during the next 2 decades as a result of the massive unemployment shock last year, citing a team of researchers from Johns Hopkins and Duke. No irreparable harm was done. Really, Dr. Truth? All this as a Johns Hopkins University meta-analysis of global studies found that lockdown and mask restrictions backed by that guy have had, quote, little to no effect on COVID-19 mortality. But he's not sorry. He's not sorry. No irreparable damage was done. And now he's looking forward to his next chapter. As of a year ago, he hoped that next chapter would include billions in funding so he could work on new vaccines. We should pray this guy never gets near another grant or health group again in his life. He has destroyed the trust in public health. His decisions have hurt countless numbers of people. He did it all while posing on magazine covers and celebrating himself and his outsized ego, while our kids were muzzled and missed years of school, as we all missed funerals and weddings and the chance to say goodbye to loved ones on their deathbeds. And we did indeed suffer irreparable harm, sir, whether you care to admit it or not. Good riddance, Dr. Fauci. You are not truth, and you will not be missed. Do you ever wonder if your vitamins are working? Clinical studies show that Healthy Cell's new ingestible gel technology called microgel delivers maximum nutrient absorption, 165% more than tablets. It tastes great too. It's hard to make vitamin liquids or gels taste good naturally, but Healthy Cell products are the best tasting pill-free supplements on the market. Go pill-free and get up to 15 pills worth of nutrients in one ultra absorption gel pack, saving you money and time and giving you effective doses in the process. Take a single great tasting gel pack at home or on the go, and it's super great for travel, so you'd love that. And you can mix it into drinks or blend it into smoothies, what have you. Old-fashioned tablets, capsules, and powders contain synthetic other ingredients, such as binding glues, flow agents, don't want to know, fillers, coatings that could irritate your gut, and so on. You don't want it. Plus, it's made in the USA, so Healthy Cell is a good alternative. Go visit healthycell.com/Megyn. All right, that's going to get you the discount. healthycell.com/Megyn, or you can just use that code Megyn when you check out for 20% off your very first order. healthycell.com/Megyn. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.